What is up, and welcome back to Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers. As always, I am your host, Brandon Silvers. All right, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. If you know me, you know that is something that is near and dear to my heart. So I had to bring on an expert, and this is an expert that you should know, a South Carolina football legend, but he's doing so much more than that. He is a typist, a poet, co-founder of Zen MNM. When I say it is an honor and a pleasure, it is an honor and a pleasure to welcome Marcus Lattimore. Marcus, thank you for joining me, man.
I'm happy. I'm happy to be on. I really am, particularly because of the subject.
Definitely.
And because of how gracious you've been in communication and just exploring, having the willingness to explore, like, you know, what's been up. That means a lot to me. It does, because it's just, quite frankly, I don't really hear a lot. I don't really hear from a lot of people back at home since I moved to the West Coast, and obviously that's because of the distance and because things have changed. But yeah, this is awesome. So thank you.
No, man. I mean, just keeping up with you post football and seeing everything you've accomplished, and we're going to get into that, obviously, but it's been inspiring in a way that when someone accomplishes all that you accomplished on the football field, you might think, all right, they did their inspirational part for the universe, but you seem to be going even further above and beyond with this stuff. So I'm excited to get into it and let everybody else know what you've been up to.
Yeah, man, it's kind. I mean, a lot of it has to do with just being bored after the game was over with, and trying to figure out what to do with my time. You know, when you don't have any other skill. I was talking to one of my friends the other day. His name's Chris Borland, and he played linebacker at the University of Wisconsin. He played a year for the San Francisco 49ers. He said, we go from being masters at one thing to trying to find something else to be a beginner at. And I mean, that kind of hit me because it's just like, man, it's just been so tough transitioning out of something that you did your whole life, and and it's just been, it's really been a journey.
Well, okay, so let's kind of start there. So physically speaking, you look at everything that you accomplished on the football field, breaking records, SEC Freshman of the Year, All-American, everything, leading to South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame, and then even the rehabbing of both the knee injuries. To me, I look at that and I'm like, this is a dude who knows how to take care of his body, his physical being. When did you become aware that, okay, there's another part of me, a mental side of me that I need to be giving some attention to?
Wow. You mentioned the accolades, you mentioned the awards. Ever since I've been 16, you grow up in the state of South Carolina, you play football at a prominent high school, you're going to be very visible, just from the beginning. And, I thought that visibility and that attention and that success and those awards and those accomplishments, I thought that equated to happiness, but I didn't really have a definition of happiness. I just saw people that I looked up to, that's what they were doing, seemed like they were pretty happy. And I get to a point in life where, we'll probably get into this a little bit later, but I receive probably the most prestigious award that I've received in my career, and that's being inducted into the University of South Carolina Hall of Fame in 2019, and I thought that would do it for me. I thought that would fulfill this thing that was missing inside of me. Um, and that night was really telling because I just didn't feel what I thought that I would feel. And that's I don't know what I was looking for. If I'm being honest, I don't, because I didn't have any frame of reference for what a healthy mind was like, what happiness felt like, what joy felt like. I didn't have a frame of reference for it because I was just climbing this ladder. So it was that moment. It was 2019. So I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's kind of recent. That's only 4 years ago, where I felt like, okay, there's something's not right. And that was the catalyst to kind of say that I need to look at everything around me. I need to look at my environment. I need to look at myself. I need to look deep, deep, deep into myself and feel like, okay, what have I learned? Um, what is success? Uh, what are all of these grand words, these known words, but they're grand words? What do they actually mean to me?
Wow. So, because I remember reading that because I mentioned Marcus, a typist, a poet, also just I don't know how you would categorize, but you write. I've read some of your blog posts before, and I remember reading what you wrote about that night, and then kind of comparing and contrasting that with what you had written, and maybe you can let the people know better than me, but with the feeling of ecstasy when you're in Williams-Brice, everyone's cheering for you. Like you said, with talking about with Chris Borland, you are the master of this. What is it like to the difference between, like, what was it like being in Willie B preparing to play and the gulf between those two feelings? Like, what was that like?
Wow. Um, it's what I realized about any craft that we put our energy towards. If you put enough hours into anything, if you practice, if you just keep doing it, you keep doing it. When there's time for when there's time for a live performance, when it's time to put the pads on, um, you fall into this state of like just flow. Um, Being in Willie B, again, like this is something, man. I have to retract a little bit because of my upbringing and where I come from. Like growing up in Duncan, going to Burns High School, we had we had a particular mindset because we had such like effective coaches. So like our coaches were awesome. Like they prepared us in a way that we were certain that we were going to go out there and win. And it was because of how we practiced. And so this mindset had been developed from a very young age of practice, practice, repetition, repetition, um, going at high speeds, like performing at high speeds, performing at a high level, high intensity, like, but also being calm within that moment. That was programmed in me when I came to Carolina. And you get in front of 80,000 people, it only amplifies because that's just all energy, and it's just all like electricity, like just running through you. So it's um that feeling is it's from like a third person perspective. It's an out of body
Mm.
experience because it's just so you're so in the moment that you become the moment. Um, and I feel like that's what attracts me to typing live poetry. I'm able to have a little pressure. I have a little nervousness. I have a little excitement. And it's all in that moment. But yeah. So that feeling, that is what I've been missing ever since I left the game of football. That feeling of preparing for something, practicing, and then going into a flow. I know that I've been like kind of destined to perform, um, do things live because that's my makeup. And that feeling compared to the Hall of Fame feeling, I was such in a state ever since I left the game. I wasn't I didn't have the wherewithal, and I didn't have the direction to put that energy towards something else.
Mm.
So when I got to the Hall of Fame banquet and I felt empty, I realized that I was missing something to make me to what was my reason for getting up? I feel like we're such creatures that we have to have meaning in our life. And I didn't for a long time I didn't have meaning in my life. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, when I retired from the Niners. So it was just trying things and not sticking with them, trying things and just giving, just half-ass effort because I just didn't know what lane was mine. And that night showed me that after that night, I started writing a lot just because I didn't know how else to articulate what was happening inside of me. Um, so that night was huge. It was painful. It was surprising, but it was huge because I had to let something out. I had to let these things out that were bothering me. And I developed so many destructive habits throughout that time because I didn't know what to do with my time. And it was just, I just I'm not proud of some of the things I did from the time I left football until that night. It was me searching, and inevitably finding nothing. So
So you talked about you found writing, and with football, I think of it hyper masculine sport, tough. I believe you've even written about how you're kind of trained to just say, I'm okay, nothing's
yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
How do you kind of break off that scar tissue essentially and be able to release it through the pen?
Still working, still working. It's still a function in my mind that tries to operate on a daily basis. Um, and through sitting and just breathing and going on walks, I'm able to see when that voice comes up of I'm good. I have such this um, ever since I've been like 9 years old. Like I started this pattern of like lying, avoiding, making up stories in my head. And we all go through trauma within our household, and those things I've explored through therapy, those things I've explored through journaling, but it's just that functions is it still operates. I can still go into a shell and pretend like everything's okay. And that mindset just hasn't that way of being hasn't served me well. So I make it a point now to when I feel like I'm about to hide something, I voice it right there in the moment. And I'm usually by myself. I'm usually by myself when this happening. I'll say, I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling just so, and when I voice it, just so I don't go into the coping habits of the things that I do when I'm lonely. When I'm lonely, I like to eat a lot of sugar. When I'm lonely, I like to watch a lot of TV. Those things are okay in moderation, but like I realize those two things, like sugar, the TV, um, those two things kind of can have a grip on me, and I don't even realize it if I don't voice that I'm lonely. My wife has been gone for like the past 2 weeks. She's back at home. I have to write about how I feel, or um I just go into a place that it's just not me. I don't like who I am when I'm repressing my emotions. So it's still a function it's still in there. It still works. But I'm able to notice. I'm able to notice when that toxic it is. I mean, it's a toxic masculinity mindset, and the only way that you can play the game of football is to be tough. I mean, there's only one way to play the game, and that's violence. So, when and you earn your respect through violence. So that's how I earn my respect. I'm no longer a football player. I hadn't been a football player for the past 10 years, almost 10 years. So it's like, I don't need that function anymore. I don't need that mindset. Um, and guys who playing football right now, they don't. The challenge is how to learn how to cut that on and cut that off. Cut that. You need that mindset in football. I'm good. I'm good. You got to keep going. You got to have grit. But as a you know person walking through society, it can be damaging in some ways.
Man, I was over here like smirking to myself because of how much of me I heard in that, because like in from probably fourth grade until I graduated high school, I struggled with a very severe social anxiety disorder where there were some years of school where I couldn't even go to school because I was so nervous. I'd have these terrible panic attacks. It was awful. And one of the ways I got out of it was I was never nervous playing basketball. So I
Mm.
was like, if I take my basketball mentality and just carry it over to real life, then I should be good. And that did help me, except if you're not turning off like that competitiveness, you are miserable to be around. You are a toxic person. And it took me a long time to realize that. And I'm still working on like, okay, everything doesn't have to be a competition. I don't always have to try to just destroy my opponent. Like I can go enjoy game night and laugh and cut up. But hearing you say that just really resonated with me because I was like, man, been there, done that. And it is a struggle because it's not like it was all bad, because I was able to get through the anxiety issues. I wouldn't Marcus Lattimore basketball, but Division II, that was played Division II because of this. So there was some good, but then it's like, how do you you can't always just take the benefits. Sometimes you got to take the bad too.
It's it's not an easy thing. It's man, I hear you, man. It's just not a thing that um you know we learn that's the way. That's the mindset. That's the only way to walk through life. Um, and so many so many messages around us reinforce that. Well, it's reinforced on a daily basis, but it's um, you know the softer side within us. It also has so much power. It has just as much power as uh, the feminine side has just as much power as the masculine side. You know,
Amen.
that's the beauty in it. Like you can be the best of both worlds. Once you recognize that, I don't have to, and I don't have to operate this way. I don't have to operate as the status quo. Um, so it's a everyday challenge, and it really just takes, personally, from what I've learned, and just growing as a person. Um, it takes just having patience with yourself, and realizing that. I mean, heck, we're on Earth school. We're not meant to be. We're never meant to be perfect.
So, what was that like for you? You talk about being patient with yourself. You talked about how you did some things that you aren't proud of.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then you're also the public figure, Marcus Lattimore, where I imagine there's an immense pressure to put on this facade and be perfect. So, how were you able to get to a point where you were able to, I guess, forgive yourself for
mm,
not being perfect and almost embrace it?
mm,
And I say embrace it because perfection, in my mind, should not be the goal
yeah.
because it's unattainable. But yeah, how were you able to get to that point? Because I imagine that's very crucial for growth as well.
Yeah. There's a writer by the name of Parker Palmer, and he says, it's this quote that really, really sticks with me that he says that wholeness, wholeness is uh, accepting that your brokenness is an integral part of your being.
Mm.
Wholeness is accepting that brokenness is an integral part of your being. We all have our own set of societal circumstances. Like ever since we've been 7 years old, 8 years old. I mean, we've been all of these things around us determine what's going to happen. Our household, first of all, our immediate family, and then our household, and then our friends, and then our community. Um, it was when I look back at being 16 years old, I scored the first game that I ever play in is on ESPN. I score a touchdown, and life life just changes at that moment. Everybody knows who you are. And this is a 15-year-old, 15, 16-year-old. Everybody knows who you are. Your hormones are raging at that time, so you're becoming familiar with your body. People are becoming familiar with you. Um, Teachers treat you different. Um, there's just so many factors that play into the evolution of who I became. And I get to South Carolina, and I mean, yes, obviously it just amplifies. Um, so I look at my story and I just see someone who um, lacked lacked guidance, and I mean, I retract that. He had guidance. It was just so many factors and variables in his way that kind of pulled him that way, pulled him this way, pulled him that way, and I those things, those habits that I developed, like just the way I treated women, no frame of reference for how to treat women, like I was drinking, and not saying that anything's wrong with drinking. There's nothing wrong with drinking. There's nothing wrong with smoking. It's just like when you start to hide those things, when you start to repress those things, but because of the image that you have to display on a daily basis, that becomes the problem when you just hide it and you don't recognize it as it. This is a part of you as well. All right, you smoke, you drink, you have sex, you're a college student. You don't have to hide that.
Is that kind of the same thing at play when now you're feeling lonely, and so you say, I'm lonely, and so is it the same type mechanism?
It's same. That's the same arena, and that is the main reason. That is the main reason I do it. I feel like I was just such. When I started to learn about myself, I became almost a radical when it comes to like freedom of expression, freedom of like confession, because I just realized the power in it, the power in all of these things that you hide inside yourself. The moment that you acknowledge them, the moment that you recognize them, acknowledge them, and then voice it, the freedom that you feel. Now, I've again, you just continue to grow as a person, and you realize you don't have to be so like just I don't have to be a defiant person, but I do have to express my emotions. And the root of it started from hiding when I was 16. Just hiding all of these things. And, I grew up a Christian. I grew up in a Christian household. So a Christian didn't do those things. So of course I'm going to hide those things. Of course. And then I'm everywhere I go, I'm this, everybody sees me as this person, in a particular light. They see me as, a public figure and somebody to look up to. So of course I'm not going to say those things out loud, but I repress them as a person, unknowingly at the time. And you grow, you live, and you learn, and you realize that's not the way. That ain't what you want to do.
And I think that, speaking of like toxic masculinity, I know the common stereotype with, if you do share your emotions, like you're being feminine or whatever. So sometimes I wonder what your thoughts on this. Are women more emotional, or do they just share more emotions than we do as men?
And I just believe they have more courage than we do.
Yes, because I'm like, when I used to think, man, I am not emotional, but I certainly was. All my emotions were just coming out as anger.
Absolutely.
Sadness was anger. This was anger. Fear was anger. I was like, I have all these emotions, but I program myself to put them out in the world as this. And then I was ashamed of having those emotions, like you were talked about with your shame. And I found that like when you're ashamed of something, it's kind of like a vicious cycle because you're ashamed of it, and then you keep turning back to it over and over and over again.
Mm. I mean that right there, it only reinforces it.
Yep.
You know what, like what, and you every time you just burying it and you burying it more and you just burying it deeper and deeper until I mean you can't even see it anymore. And now that's when the what you mentioned, which you know I have tons of experience with the anger, the projection of hostility out into the air, that energy. Where does that energy come from? I mean, it's usually from buried emotions that we we as men don't have the tools to express, and society just reinforces don't do that. But I mean, women are just so courageous. You know, they will, you know, and it's no secret. You know, you look at the average lifespan of women, you know, amongst just any country. You know, they usually live a little bit longer.
Yep.
And I learned something from I was listening to this life coach who I'm in this theater production now, and she came on and she was talking about how emotions sit in the body, you know, and how these emotions can sit in our shoulders, they can sit in our hips, and you know, they can form these knots and eventually lead to disease and those things. It just makes complete sense. You know, we'll wonder why we have a little knot in our shoulder, or we'll have, why our hips are tight. It could possibly, be from just buried emotions that we never addressed at the time.
Mm, I believe that because I mean that's kind of the whole concept behind going to get a massage. Like you're stressed out, you need a massage.
Yes.
So, and you mentioned the tools that you use. So, I want to go back to the writing. So, what was your style when you first started writing? And then how has it transitioned? And what got you to a point where you're like, I want to share this with the world?
Wow. Well, I started writing because I was drowning.
Mm,
When I was writing, I was underwater. I was I was trying to get out of the depths. Um, I was trying to understand what was happening in my inner world. Um, so it really just came out as confessions. I don't even call them writings. I just
mm,
call them confessions, and they were just me confessing all of the things that had happened, all the things that I'd learned, all the shame, all the guilt, all the lying that I'd done. I was trying to get that out. And then I finally got to a place where I wasn't drowning anymore. And once I wasn't drowning anymore, I just started writing to inspire and encourage from what I'd learned looking inside myself. Um, and then I got to a point where, okay, I enjoy writing. I enjoy putting words together in a way that it evokes something in people. So then I started writing just for fun, So now I'm in that stage. I'm in a stage now where I'm writing for fun, and my imagination has been opened again. Like I
mm.
have space in my mind for imagination again. I didn't have any space in my mind when I was drowning. I was just I was just trying to get this darkness out. Just had dark clouds all over my head, all over my mind, all over my heart. I was trying to write, write that out, and um, so now I'm in this stage where I'm exploring, I'm imagining, I'm experimenting with different styles of poetry, I'm finding my style, like what is my style of poetry? That's where I am now. But when I started, it was all therapy. It
What
was
drew
all
you?
therapeutic.
Yeah. So what drew you to? What's drawn you as you've gotten out of the darkness to poetry specifically?
Yeah. Um, I tell you, poetry, what drew me to poetry at first, I mean, hip hop is in my blood, it's in our blood, so you listen to those great poets, Lauren Hill being a big inspiration, um, because of her artistic way of expressing her emotions. Um, in her MTV album, that album, it was one point in time where I think I had that album on repeat for like 3 months, like because I was just like, was like, man, she is speaking to me. Um, then I start listening to Nikki Giovanni, Sonia Sanchez, Maya Angelou, Toni Morrison, Alice, like just all of the greats. But poetry in specific, what pulls me to poetry? It's the ability to describe something that you see, describe something that you see in your unique way. I realized, recently I realized that poetry is, you looking at the world and you're in the world and you're walking through the world and you're just interpreting it through your lens, using your life experience and using just the ingredients of the world. Poetry to me is like it's satisfying. It's just so satisfying to read something from Sonia Sanchez or Maya Angelou, because you can feel them in it. You can like feel their personality in it. You can feel who they are and uh, like just their uniqueness. Um, that is what the ability to put myself in something.
Mm.
That's what attracts me to poetry.
And when did you discover? You mentioned you're good at the live poetry. You like live performances. I've watched you on Instagram Live, doing poetry where you take a phrase someone gives you and you will create a poem off that. When did you discover that skill? Because that's incredible to me. It's like freestyling.
I, you know, I bought the typewriter and it sat on a table for about 9 months. When I bought the typewriter, I knew that I would eventually use it. I think I was just a little bit hesitant because it's like, oh man, is this really my path? Like, I think uh, I was hesitant to claim myself as a writer. I was hesitant to claim myself as a typist, to validate that because it's like, are you sure? Like, this is what you want to do? And I eventually got to the point where I can't really go a day without, putting pen to paper or journaling or, just doing something, particularly, expressing myself. That's just a habit. And that, um, I kind of just saw the vision. I saw the vision of me set up somewhere at a park. People are coming up. They give me a theme. They give me an idea. I saw the whole vision within 15 seconds.
Mm.
And I've seen the whole vision. I saw the whole vision of setting up on stage, and I've done that. I saw the vision of setting up at an airport. I've done that. I've just, um, it all came to me. You can call it God. Um, I call it God. The vision came to me, and it was so scary that I didn't believe it. So it was just like, man, am I really going to do this? And it was just a vision that came, and I guess I attribute that to just walking in this path, and trusting in this path, and knowing that you're going to continue to get better, because I'm still at a place in life where I feel, I'm continuously improving every day, when I practice, and you're eventually going to get to a point where you like what you see on the paper. And I'm starting to like what I see on the paper. I'm at that point where, okay, I feel pretty good about where I am, and I just got to continue to practice and keep going. But I just attribute it to I'm going to finally saying I'm going to do this. Once you put it out there, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. Having faith on that path, although it's scary, because the visions are going to come.
That's incredible. And like, we'll tell you where to find Marcus's stuff, because it's amazing as well. And speaking of more tools that you've used in your mental wellness journey, I know you do a lot of yoga, mindfulness, meditation. I had the pleasure of taking one of your men's mornings meditations. How did you go from, okay, I'm writing, to now I'm getting into yoga, I'm getting into meditation?
Man, B, I think it's all grouped together. I think all of it is a meditative state. And how I describe a meditative state is just being in the present moment, being in the now, being here now. Like, you know, I I have to. It's all, moving the organ. But before I moved the organ, my life was so noisy. My life was so busy. My life was always on the go. I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And, not that I don't have a schedule today, or I don't have obligations and responsibilities, but I've had an opportunity um, to just spend a lot of time in silence, just naturally, because I'm not in the normal I'm not in my normal environment. That being South Carolina, and because of that, I spent a lot of time in nature, and just when you're amongst nature, when you're amongst the evergreen trees, or you're just on a hike or you're on a walk, you your mind is still, because everything around you is still. Everything around you is silent. Everything around you. So you're naturally going to just fall into the rhythm of your environment. And I've fallen into the rhythm of just time to just walk, time to just sit, time to just be still and just be amongst the trees. And that has been so, it was so needed for my mind, because my mind was just, it was so busy, busy, busy. And, all of our minds are, everybody's mind is busy, but I believe that, we owe it to our mind to also give it some time to rest. And yoga is a practice of being in the present moment. And when I say that, that means not in not in your mind, not thinking about anything, but just watching the birds, or not thinking about anything, but just heck, watching a squirrel crawl up the tree. Like our mind needs order. Our mind needs a challenge. But I think our mind also appreciates when we take some time for it to just be still as well. And that's what yoga teaches. Yoga teaches uh, you to steady your mind. Which is a big part of how I'm able to catch when I'm about to go into an impulsive mode. When I'm able to catch when I'm feeling loneliness. I'm able to catch it because my mind is able to just be still for a second. And yoga, meditation, writing, being in nature. I think they're all kind of grouped as one. It's really just depends on the day. But some you do every day. Mindfulness, nature, movement. I try to move my body every day. Well, at least 6 days a week. I try to sit still every day, and I try to go in nature every day, because those three things just the mind the mind like smiles a little bit when I have those three components in my life.
So for me, someone who's done some mindfulness, some meditation stuff, I haven't made the leap over to yoga yet. And I think part of the reason is I have these preconceived notions. We talked a little bit about the masculinity thing, but then also, I don't know if it's a South Carolina thing or what, but I think of yoga as being a very white community.
Absolutely.
How have you found that to be in your experience? And I know y'all are doing a lot of stuff as well to kind of break down those walls.
Man, well, in America, it is very Eurocentric. That is without a doubt. It is not. A lot of people have reappropriated the practice, and that's unfortunate because it's such an ancient healing practice that is derived in India, thousands of years ago. People have been practicing breathing techniques for thousands of years in the Eastern world. And in the 60s, it kind of migrated over here because of, one big component being Ram Dass. Ram Dass did a lot for the culture of yoga, and it spread into America. And it's not, yeah, you really have to do your own research when it comes to that, because it's just so It has been washed. And it's more of people really don't understand what yoga is. Yoga, the word itself means union with all. That message can be equated to, um, seeing everything as a part of you. That's really the whole message of yoga. Yoga is really not it's a physical practice, but it's really a spirit. It's its own spiritual practice as well. With that being said, like it's that part has been misconstrued. People just think yoga is stretching and putting yourselves in different movements. I personally, I do yoga maybe twice a week, the physical practice. The spiritual practice is just as it will be equated to Buddhism, it will be equated to Christianity, Islam, like all of these different philosophies of and ways of thinking. Um, I in with yoga, it's more of me. I see it as a practice of practice of breathing, number one. So breathing, learning how to breathe, and just being in the present moment. And it's really just for me, it's just that simple. Um, Yoga helps me stay in the present moment. And we could just like really cut it at that, but it's so many more components to it. They have the yamas and the niyamas, which would be similar to the Ten Commandments. It's all about righteous living. Just like Christianity's about righteous living. Well, and Buddhism about righteous living and being kind and loving people. All of those things are universal, no matter the doctrine. But all of them have just been twisted and misconstrued, like just over time. Every philosophy and religion have been misconstrued just because people want to feel as if they're more powerful than the practice. And for me, it's um, heck. I mean, it's a practice of being in the moment, and um, yeah, just acceptance.
Man, you might have talked me into it. I'm not gonna lie. So I know y'all got a lot going on with Zen, MNM,
Yes.
and part of that is making yoga and mindfulness practices accessible for people of color, Black people, whoever, and move away from that Eurocentric yoga stereotype I have in my head, at least, and that it sounds like is very real. But also, you're making it inclusive in terms of financially, where you have offer certain services that you can pay what you can afford. Why is it important for you and your wife to be inclusive in both of those aspects?
Well, capitalism is it runs our life. It kind of makes the decisions for us in life. Um, and I mean that's just the society we live in. It's just it causes a lot of stress. I I understand the system um, and its benefits, but also its negatives. There's a lot of negatives. There's a lot of benefits that come with capitalism. There's a lot of negatives that come with capitalism. And you know, for us, this is it's so precious to our heart, like, and just what it's done for our mood, what mindfulness, nature, and movement has done for our well-being, our mental well-being. I mean, I mean, yeah, you struggle. I mean, do we make a lot of money? No, we don't make a lot of money, but it's such a this practice isn't about making a lot of money. I mean, quite frankly, the business isn't about making a lot of money. Would we like to one day? Absolutely. But we made a decision in the beginning that if we go into it with that intention, we are missing the very point of Zen. We are missing the very point of the word Zen. Zen means calm. Zen means doing, being still, being calm in your body, just being. We can't charge, we can't charge people because of the word, but because of the lineage of this practice. This is free. You know, breathing is free. The air is free. Nature is free. Movement is free. Like all of these things, we just want to, we understand that, we have certain skills that we offer. My wife being a certified yoga teacher, myself being one, my skill is being able to put words together in a way where people can understand them. We know that we offer that. We know that, but Brandon, I got to be honest with you. I mean, this is more of like a karma business and a legacy business more than anything. What we thought, we're thinking so like far-sighted, like what is our legacy? Um, uh, we would rather our legacy be something that is, we have Black kids meditating. And that if we can get Black kids to meditate, we know that we've lowered the chances of violence and of inner violence, that them feeling inner violence. Because the practice of meditation, it's science based. It's not anything that's obviously there's a spiritual component to it, but there's so many studies that have been done behind meditation that's research based, and it shows that it lowers your blood pressure. It shows that it helps with bowel movements. It shows that it increases attention span, and our critical thinking skills. Like all of these benefits that come with meditation, a practice of it, a consistent practice of it, all of these things, it's good for your health. So I mean, I guess we're thinking more legacy than anything when we thought about that model. And, we'll figure out a way to make money. We'll figure out how to make money in other ways. But when it comes to this, we just want people to meditate, or we want people to explore the possibilities and know that that there are options when it comes to meditation. You don't have to sit still. You don't have to sit in a room and breathe. You can do that if you want to, and that's my preferred way. But there's so many other ways that you can meditate.
I think that was the most shocking thing when I did the men's meditation with you, is that I expected we're going to sit here, we're going to breathe. and you led all of us, felt like it was just me, through the practice of Qigong, I believe.
Yes.
If you could explain what that is, and it was super interesting to me and it caught me off guard, and it was, I felt great afterwards.
Yeah, and it's another ancient healing practice that's to this day prescribed in the Eastern world. Like the doctors will prescribe qigong to people. Qigong is uh, ancient movement as medicine. Is the best way to like just put three words on it. And I like to describe it like as just a massage for your nervous system. We have such a normal pace within our day. Our pace is just so programmed. Um, the way we walk, our pace, our gait is programmed. The way we move our hands is programmed. When you get into qigong for that 5 to 10 to 30 minutes, you're breaking that program, and you with your mind, with your body, are initiating movements in a slower pace. The whole idea behind qigong is to purposely interrupt your daily pace, purposely. So you would normally, just move your hand at a normal rate, or you move your feet, or you walk at a normal rate. In qigong, you would put your mind on your feet and move at a slower rate. And what that's doing, that's showing your nervous system, that's telling your nervous system that you're in charge, that the mind is in charge. So you're giving the mind control over your body versus your body being in control over your mind. And that's just another way of meditating. It's just another form of slowing your pace down in life. And you don't have to move at that pace for 24 hours out the day. You could just do it for an hour, or you can do it for 5 minutes, or you can do it for 30 minutes. Any little bit is going to improve your well-being if you do it consistently. It's going to slow you down in life. It's going to, for me personally, what I've seen is it's raised my level of discernment. And when I say that, like the ability to make a decision that is wise. I'm able to respond versus react. And I didn't see any benefits the first 9 months, and I wanted to quit. So I'm just like, the first 3 months, I was just like, I was done. The first 6 months, I was done. The practice is cumulative. So the more that you do it, you're not going to notice the changes because you're changing from the inside out. And when you change from the inside out, it's just naturally you start to see the world from a completely different lens.
I mean, that's what was wild to me, because I know myself. I'm very energetic. I'm enthusiastic. I'm just 100 miles an hour. But you don't know that you're always 100 miles an hour until you're trying to take your hand and slowly move it up in the air. And then you're like, oh man, I can't do this to save my life. And you're like, okay, maybe I do need to take a little break and just be still and just relax a little bit. Cause I looked like I was doing a TikTok dance at the first part.
Hey,
and it
you
was
know
not
what
good.
else? You know what else is a good thing, B? Like this is a thing to know. This is what I've noticed. Do when you go to the gym, do a squat at your normal pace versus doing a squat 5 seconds down. Doing a push up at your normal pace versus doing a push up and doing it and taking 5 seconds on the way down to do it. Not only is it harder, not only is it harder, it makes you stronger.
Time under tension.
And it's that it's that I'm trying it's that I'm getting at. That's the difference right there. It's when you do something and you put your mind on it and you like an eccentric push-up or eccentric squat, and you not only is it harder, it's harder because the mind wants to, but no, you're telling the mind, no, we're in charge. I'm in charge. We're going to go 5 seconds versus 2 seconds down. And the more that you do that, the more the mind will realize, oh, I'm in charge. Not I'm in charge. Not the body. I'm in charge. And I mean, it's just like it's almost as if the more you do it, the more you get used to it. Like you do it after a year, the mind doesn't really want anything else. To like it wants that challenge. It wants that challenge of going 5 seconds down on the push up versus going 2 seconds down on the push up because again, it's so cumulative that it's just going to make you stronger.
No, completely agree. I need to get into it even more because just that one little snippet, I was like, oh, you kind of identify, all right, these are the weaknesses. This is what needs to be worked on. Let's see what we can make happen. And it is like a challenge aspect to it where that competitiveness gets into it. Like, man, I
Right.
can move this arm slower than that.
And that's the thing. That's why I love doing it with athletes. Over time, athletes get into it. Like at Lewis and Clark, when I was coaching there, we would do some qigong and then we would do some eccentric push-ups, like a 5 second down push-up. And it's just like, are you going to let your mind? Are you going to let the mind win, or are you in charge of the mind? That's how I would frame it to them. You know, are you going to let the mind win right now? Or are you in charge of the mind? Can you hold that plank for 1 minute? You know, can you hold that? Can you hold that in that pull up position for 10 seconds? That's all meditation because you're in charge of the mind.
Mm, yeah. So highly recommend that. And just kind of talking more about what y'all are doing at Zim MNM. What other offerings do y'all have? I know you mentioned your wife is a licensed yoga teacher. You're doing the writing thing as well. But what else do y'all offer for people who are interested?
My wife teaches yoga here at a studio called Harmony. So that's run through Zen M&M. Partner yoga. Partner yoga is a lot of fun. And you know, all of these are locally based. You know, for the people in South Carolina, we have a poetry subscription, you know, where you receive 4 poems a month, and that's $25. We work with schools to we have a program called Meditate, MEDIT, and the number eight. And that's for elementary school kids. So we create programs working with a school in Newberry, working with a few schools here in Oregon, create meditation programs for elementary schools. Um, you know, but it's more of a
Okay.
locally based. Where if, you know, if you're here in Portland, we yoga. partner yoga are the Monday through Friday offerings that we usually have, and obviously the poetry. But it's we have poems for sale that are online. We do custom poetry, but really, Zen M&M is it's a lifestyle that we want that we want to introduce to people that's an option to adopt just to improve your well-being. That's what it is. So we always have we have a newsletter that goes out every Thursday, and you can go online to zenmnm.com and sign up for that newsletter where you hear about everything that's going on, everything that we're doing. There's always tips, daily tips that we have, daily exercises that you can do, and our blog. So our blog always has some useful information when it comes to your health on there. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it.
Okay, and we're going to put those links in the show notes as well. But I know we're running up on time, but I did want to ask you, why was it important for you to move to Oregon?
Yeah. So I could learn who I was. So I could learn who I was outside of my bubble.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in, South Carolina being a small state, I wanted to learn who is Marcus outside of football, because that's all my identity was wrapped in football, in the state of South Carolina. That's what I'm known for. That's how everybody knows me. But I could no longer play football anymore. So I felt like it was important for me to separate from my environment to learn who I was outside of the game. And it was scary. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was scary, but because I was leaving a lot of comfort. But I think the comfort is what was holding me back from learning really learning who I was. I had to put myself in a different place so I could learn who I was.
Because growth is often uncomfortable.
Ah, that's what it is. That's what it is.
I mean, I was a little shocked too, because like you said, I couldn't imagine Marcus Lattimore when I thought Marcus Lattimore, football player. I couldn't imagine you ever having to like pay for dinner or anything.
And that was the case. I mean, it was you're exactly right. Like it was. In Colombia, I rarely had any worries, and that a lot of people would say, then why would you move? For me, it was I I wasn't um I needed to find my way. I wasn't satisfied. I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't happy. You know, it, uh, we hear all the stories about, like people with hundreds of millions of dollars who are just unfulfilled and unhappy. We've heard that story thousands of times, and you know it. I think part of the reason is because you spend your life chasing something, and you I mean you make it happen. Like I made it happen. I went to college and I played, and I spent 2 years in the NFL and made it happen, but okay, now I got 70 more years to live. Now what? So it was really that, just trying to figure out what's next.
What's been the most surprising thing you've learned being outside of South Carolina, where you thought, oh, this was normal life, but now you're in Oregon, you're like, wait, why? What is not necessarily, I guess, what is wrong with South Carolina, but maybe it is. What is wrong with South Carolina? Why are they doing that?
Oh man, that's a question.
Because I'll tell you my own experience with that.
Yes, please.
So I went to the Raleigh Durham area, and this was only a couple of years ago. And I went to a restaurant, and it was a nice restaurant, as nice as I'm gonna go to. And you saw people of all colors like intermingling at tables. And it was strange to me because like if I go downtown Charleston, like this is where all the white people will go to eat. And this is where all the black people will go to eat. And you might see one or two within that mixed in. Like it's not a completely 100% one way or the other. But to see that much of a mix in Charleston is supposed to be like the liberal part of South Carolina.
Right.
And it's still so segregated feeling. So when I was looking around at this restaurant, I was like, what in the hell is going on here? Couldn't believe it.
You know, South Carolina is a product of its history. I mean, we all know that. I mean, hell, Charleston was like one of the wealthiest cities in America at one point because of slaves. And that when when you we are. I'm proud to be a South Carolina. I'm proud to be a South Carolinian, but I don't necessarily agree with all the values of South Carolina. And when I say that, I mean it's just we value we value some things that are it's I don't agree with the mindset of South Carolina. I don't agree with the mindset. Although I'm a proud South Carolinian, and that's what made me, and I'm I'm proud to be, but because now I have a different mindset. You can, I felt um, in South Carolina, particularly my situation, I saw racism from inside the bubble. And when I say that, I was inside of a um I had always been inside whiteness, like insulated inside whiteness. So I saw racism from a completely different lens. I would be treated a certain way, and then I would see a black male, same height, same size, look just like me, treated a completely different way. That when I started to notice that, um, I was just like, okay, our mindset. I don't. We have to wake up. We have to wake up and realize that like white supremacy is a real thing. White supremacy is a real thing. The patriarchy is a real thing, which we're part of. But it's like those two things kind of they still operate pretty heavy in South Carolina. I mean I say South Carolina, they operate everywhere. But here in living in Oregon, living in Portland, I've been exposed to a different mindset and a different way of living. And It's Portland ain't perfect at all. I mean, golly, I mean, it was a city on fire when I got here, just like a city of Armageddon. But one thing I appreciate about the city of Portland is that the things that are done behind closed doors in every household in America, at least they're on display here. And there's white supremacy here in Portland, lots of it. But there's also, this is the first time in my life where I've been exposed to white people that are actually, they also notice white supremacy. So you got half and half. You got white supremacists, but you also got people that white people that fight back against white supremacy. I appreciate that here in Portland, and I don't know. Obviously that's a different environment. So
Yeah, we might need to bust some of them over here. So,
yeah.
so to end it on a more positive note, I did some research. I feel like we've talked about Marcus Lattimore, the person. Like, I feel like I got a pretty good idea of you, but I want to go even deeper into that really quickly. I hear that you are, and correct me if I'm wrong, a German dessert expert. Can you discuss German desserts?
German desserts. I mean, European desserts.
Okay, I heard that because you mentioned you like sugar, but I hear like European desserts on another level, similar to how mindfulness and meditation
There's
techniques.
there's this place called Ken's Artisan Bakery here in Portland, and they use butter. They use this butter from Burgundy, France. It makes everything taste different. The croissants, the morning buns, every every different type of pastry that you could imagine tastes completely different when you use that type of butter. Now my sister lived in Germany, um, and she would send treats all the time. You know, so maybe that's where that came from.
It might be okay.
Maybe
Huh.
that's where it came from. European desserts. I mean, like French, European, like Germany, France. Um, we definitely spent a lot of time in the patisseries there. Ain't no doubt about that.
There we go. And then I saved this question for last because I needed us to have a time limit, or else I felt like this was going to take up the whole hour and a half. Can you talk to me about the beauty and the being of dogs?
Oh, oh man. You talk about we were talking about living in the present moment. Dogs don't know any other function. They are a dog can't lie. DMX said that. A dog can't lie. A dog can't lie to you. They're like the gatekeepers of presence. Like dogs remind me to be present.
Mm.
Dogs remind me to live in the moment. Um, my beloved, the standard poodle Mocha, that's our dog. She is, I don't know, they're fascinating creatures, but at the same time, they're not. I find them fascinating because they always are in the now. And um, I can't imagine life without dogs. I can't imagine my life without a dog. Dogs, I mean, just animals in general. I mean, like just, they are, you know, if we could learn something from them, you know, I think it would just be the ability to like just live in the moment.
I
And you know, I
completely
mean,
agree.
hell, I mean, that's easy. That's easy for me to say when we got all of these responsibilities on a daily basis. But I mean, I think we all deserve a little bit of that, a little bit of time to just be in the moment.
Amen. And I'll do commercials for dogs for free. Like I love my dog. I'm the same way. I
Yeah,
cannot imagine life without a dog. He's probably gonna get some treats when I get off here with you because I just miss him. So
really,
uh
bro.
so yeah, Marcus, where can people find you? What you got coming up next? I'm gonna clear out and let you say what you got to say.
Thank you for this opportunity, B. I have a theater production coming up here in Portland. My SC peeps, come see me. I'll be performing um, June 7th through June 18th at the Portland Playhouse. The name of the play is The Sounds of Afrolytical Movement. I have a spoken word album that'll be releasing between June 25th and June 30th, and that'll be available on all streaming platforms. On Instagram, I'm Marcus Lattimore _. On Twitter, I'm Marcus Lattimore. And all of that information will be coming up soon on both of those sites. And yeah, go check out www.zenmnm.com and keep up with what we're doing. We have a newsletter. Sign up for that newsletter. Come, and when you're in Portland, come holler at us.
Marcus, man, I cannot thank you enough for this. This has been incredible for me. Man, you're crushing it, man. I appreciate you. This has been another episode of Beyond the Art with Brandon Silvers. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, review, and share. And I will catch y'all next week.